This is a short video for the topic of business cycles. So it's a summary of our online lecture that I delivered via Teams. Let's go to my full desktop. So this is what I try to convey. The message is actually to ask you to do not get scared when we have market crashes, when we have like recessions or downturns in the economy. I think they are actually opportunities for us to invest more and to buy more shares and assets in the markets that we can find actually very cheap. I think the main idea is to think what we can buy when we have these crashes in the market. Is it possible that we are going to have a bear market in the future? Because governments are thinking on winding out the quantitative easing and other stimulus in the economy, and yes, interest rate might increase, and that will like bring the economy a little bit like in a slow down. So yes, it might be possible that we can see the stock market shares going a little bit down in the following year, or maybe a crash. No one knows really what is going to happen. The prediction is a little bit tricky from now, but yes, I think there are going to be very good opportunities then for us to hoard and to get those shares that probably are going to make the most. Okay, so in this summary, we covered the topic or the concept of actual growth and potential growth. Actual growth is the actual GDP, if you want. Growth, you can measure GDP growth in percentage. So let's see that is gross domestic product. So you can see the readings of gross domestic product coming every quarter, for instance. But the economy also has like that potential economic growth, which is like the prediction or the forecast at which the economy usually grows, right? It's more or less calculated like that. So the percentage increase in the economy capacity, meaning that probably we are on that capacity, we operate under that assumption when we make regressions to find out what is the potential economic growth. Yes, we covered the topic of economic growth and the production possibility curve. So here I explain how countries can be depicted like two goods, good X and good Y. So I say that countries are passing from that point A to that point C, where we are using full use of our resources without wasting anything, and that is the aim of governments. I say as well that the production possibility curve can shift to the right, and in doing that, our economy potential is going to grow. That can happen when, for instance, we invest in infrastructure, meaning that now we are able to produce more of good Y and more of good X. This is the actual GDP and the actual growth and the potential output for several countries. In this example, you are going to see that how some countries are actually growing beyond the potential. The question whether if that is possible, it is a yes. People, for instance, can act or can make activities beyond their potential by probably using or drinking coffee when we are studying, as an example, or when they are running, they can consume sugars in order to provide more energy, and that will allow them probably to perform better in long runs, for instance. And yes, so yes, it is possible for countries to grow beyond the potential as well. When that happens, usually the central bank pushes the brakes, and the government as well tries to increase taxes a little bit in order to balance out the accounts in the government. We presented these growth rates in selected industrialized countries. We show how the UK and the United States compare. We say that if potential output exceeds actual output, there is a negative output gap, meaning that we need to close that negative output gap and try to bring the economy to the potential output. We said that it's possible most of the time, I will say not always, but most of the time, any increase in the potential output brings the production possibility curve to the right. Maybe there are exceptions in which, for instance, there are technologies that cannot pass cannot be expanded to the rest of the economy, so that obviously do not let the potential production possibility curve to bring shift to the right. What else? I said as well that economic growth and business cycles are the fluctuations in actual growth. We covered the phases of the business cycle, so the upturn, the expansion, peaking out, and a slowdown or recession. I say as well that probably our economy and the world economy is peaking out during these months as they are decreasing the stimulus. I believe that we are peaking and probably we are slowing down a little bit in growth in the future. We see symptoms of this in China, in other countries in the world, the United States, the UK, Europe, a little bit of slowdown. Possibilities of recession are in the horizon, yes, because of problems in different type of commodities, metals, goods in general, agricultural products. Prices are rising, oil, and especially if oil increases a lot, that might bring actual stock down, the growth down, because oil means that transport and petrol and everything is going to be more expensive for all households. We talk about long-term output trend, sustainable national income. We say that there is a portion of the outcome that is harming the environment, so that is it is good to have as well a sustainable national income. I say that it was like that cruise speed at which everything is going to be fine for the households and the environment and for all the issues that we are being challenged with. So we covered as well the topic of output gaps towards this long-term output trend. Here is the business cycle, a picture of it, the full capacity, and this green line is the potential output. I say that the gaps, as you can see here, are the differences between this potential output and the actual growth that is here on this graph in blue. We talk about this equation, so the length of business cycles are measured from peak to peak. We talk about as well the amplitude, which is the magnitude of the phases of the waves and the fluctuations in actual growth. We say that the causes of fluctuation in growth might be aggregate demand, so when, for instance, people behave exuberant because they have a lot of money, or when people behave a little bit more conservative and they stop expending because they are saving, they are preparing for future, for problems in the economy, so they prefer to save more. But I say that actual problems in the business cycle are coming today from the aggregate supply, so shortages in labor, shortages in the production of agricultural products, shortages in the transportation of products, so it's not just lorries, lack of lorries or lack of containers to send the goods, it's also shortages of drivers for the lorries. We have spikes in commodities, very important commodities such as oil and lumber and metals in general as well. So we have a very big shock in aggregate supply that is bringing inflation, and that will make the interest rates to increase. People will spend less and growth is going to decline. So we cover as well the international business cycle. So we say that all countries are linked because of globalization. So something happens in China that might pass to Western economies, or if something happens in the United States, will impact what is going on here in the UK. Not as much the UK to the United States, but Sometimes it is, yes, the UK economy is a very big economy, so sometimes it passes shocks to bigger economies, but in general we say that there is some synchronicity in terms of countries and business cycles. Yes, so I show these business cycles. We have the UK, US, Germany, France, and Ireland in this graph. So you can see how, for instance, Ireland is more volatile in comparison with other countries, and how the UK is performing like in comparison with the other countries. So all these countries are developed countries, so they look pretty much the same. Probably Ireland, which is actually growing still at a very fast pace, has more volatile conditions, such as in other less developed countries. Yes, so we have here in red the United Kingdom, we have here the United States, in green the world. We can see here the rate of actual economic growth, and how that economic growth is actually very correlated. There is a very strong relationship between the world, the United Kingdom, and the United States. Finally, I show this graph by saying, I said as well that consumption is highly important for growth. As you can see, the correlation is way more like close to GDP, which is in blue, and that investment, investment is also very important for the business cycles. But as you can see from this graph, investment has more fluctuation, right? So I believe that investment is going to impact highly this year GDP growth, especially because banks are not lending money to like a huge sector, the oil sector, and the mine sector. So that I think that is like causing prices to go up, because we are not able, for instance, to do more exploration for metals and oil, right? Or not as many as we had before. So with this, I finish the summary for this session. And yes, I hope you are going to be able to see my other videos next time.